seems like, yeah, 3-1-3 Charizard EX plays the Dusknoir. And ooh, yeah, we were talking about the ace spec of choice. It seems like Brent's going for that Hero's Cape, like you were saying.
Yeah, it's definitely what I like to talk about. It's to honestly to protect the Pidgeot, but if there's no Pidgeot in play, why not just make your 330 hit point Charizard EX just a little bit bigger and a little bit harder to hit? But the problem is you're up against Ciaran, who's going more towards a little bit of what I like to call more of the standard Lugia, playing the Minccino and the Cinccino. These baby Pokemon, they can hit for a lot of damage with only a little bit amount of special energy attached to it. But we see the fist bump. We see us going into game round number 7 here. Let's see what we got from Brent and Ciaran.
We saw a quick head shake from Ciaran there, and it's because he drew the Legacy energy for the turn, started the Squawkabilly EX, so this Squawk and Seize could be very painful having to get rid of that powerful ace spec energy.
Yeah, this one is definitely not exactly what we want to see from a Lugia hand. Lugia V-Star now been around for a while. It has seen many of forms. I remember with Amazing Rare Raikou, even with Yveltal back in the day. So Lugia has definitely like withstood the test of time. I think what has really kind of put this deck back into the meta has been the Minccino and the Cinccino here, where you're able to really kind of use that special energy. But we're seeing the capturing aromas go through and through. Get heads, you get an evolution. Get tails, you get a basic. But if we know it's turn 1 and we're seeing heads on a capturing aroma, we know that we're grabbing that Archeops.
Yeah, thankfully, Ciaran did get the Lugia V down. That is step number 1 for the Lugia V Star deck. It's in the name, right? Just so you can try to find that Lugia V-Star and Summoning Star V-Star power, get those Archeops into play. We do see that Legacy energy attached to the Lugia V. Not really going to provide any special types of energy, but it does make it only 1 prize card if it's knocked out from Brent's side of things. And does get that Minccino down, so a good turn with that Squawk and Seize. Hopefully can pull together that Summoning Star next turn, but Brent starting off strong with that Arven.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't ask for anything more as a Charizard player by having Arven in hand going second, right? We have the Forest Sealstone grab, and we also have the Buddy Buddy Poffin, but I think it's really important to kind of call out, and I think a lot of Charizard players have been trying to do this lately. It's mixing around their Charizard line, if you will, to try and fit the Dusknoir line in. Only 2 Charmander, 1 Charmeleon. Oh, wait, no, never mind. Different arts here. So it's going to be a 3-1-3 line. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, it's just kind of going more Charizard instead of the more Pidgeot EX route, where you're focusing more on a bunch of different attackers, seeing the like double turbo energy that we saw in Worlds. Not really going to be here, just 6 fire energy. Brent's really focusing on just building up a Charizard EX as fast as possible and having that stay around with your Pidgeot EX with that Hero's Cape potentially. And honestly, starting off really wonderful here. You have that Rotom V, so you can utilize that Forest Sealstone right away to get another Buddy Buddy Poffin. And this turn is looking very solid from Brent.
Yeah, I agree, Jeremy. I think at this point you can't have a better bench than multiple Charmanders, and we are going to be going for the Duskull line. So last match, we kind of got to see it go into play. We want to see it go all the way to fruition here. I think a lot of players have found their comfort of the Duskull line here in Charizard. We just haven't been able to kind of see it come all the way to fruition.
Yeah, and again, speaking of the prizes that both of these players had, the 2 Boss's Orders for Ciaran here does play 4 of them, so that's not really going to be too big of a deal, but you do have a Cinccino in the prize cards, only playing a 2-2 line, which granted, we've seen some players like Rahul Reddy cut it down to a 1-1 for Worlds, so we'll see how greedy some of these players are, but that is your main attacker against a Charizard EX in the active spot. It's your way to build that damage exponentially outside of something like a weird Year V.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to see Capturing Aroma once again. Come down to a 3, so we do get to go on ahead. If it's Tails, grab a basic from the deck. See what exactly we are going to be grabbing. It is going to be that Iron Hands EX, but there's a problem there, Jeremy. We can't utilize it because the Legacy energy acts as what we like to call a rainbow energy, and that's already on Lugia. So we can't actually use it for lightning. We might just have to use it as an Ultra Ball discard.
And speaking of Ultra Ball, there's also 2 of those in the prize cards. So a lot of Pokemon search in the deck for Lugia V-Star, but you really want to rely on those Ultra Balls to get Archeops in the discard. Now, there was 1 put in there through that Squawk and Seize on turn 1, so we'll have to see if Ciaran can actually pull it together here. But right now, you got that Lugia V-Star, you get at least 1, but is it worth it to take that 2 prize knockout in the active spot just for Charizard to come in and start dealing a lot of damage?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when things like Defiance Band are in the deck. Also Counter Catcher, for example. So if we were to do something like a Summoning Star this turn for just 1 Archeops, we could just go on ahead and Counter Catcher that Archeops, and there goes all of our energy acceleration. But looks like we don't need an Ultra Ball to do it. Here comes Chinchino. We definitely have it in the hand. We have a couple of energy cards, but I don't see another way that we could pitch Archeops off of Ultra Ball other than just grabbing it into hand, but definitely a weird line here for Ciaran.
Yeah, very awkward hand here. You're going to be able to maybe threaten a Chinchino just by attaching to a Minchino here. You can even call for family with this Jet energy brought to the active. Especially with one of the Chinchino being prized, you kind of don't want to give that up right away. There's no real recovery in a deck like Lugia. You're not playing to get things back. You're just playing hard and fast.
Might just be the beat.
Oh yeah, it's not even the call for family.
Or we could clean up and discard 2 tools. I mean, we've used the Forest Sealstone already, but it could just be beat for 10 coming up from Minchino. But it is going back on over to Brent's turn, as we are going to see our Dusclops here. See what we have coming up next. But once again, Dusclops, Curse Blast. Once during your turn, you may put 5 damage counters onto one of your opponent's Pokemon. If you use this ability, your Pokemon's knocked out. So that means you're giving your opponent a prize card, but that means Counter Catcher comes online.
Yeah, it takes a lot to be able to pull off a play like this, but you can use that Curse Blast, put the 5 on that Lugia V-Star. That means there's going to be 230 left. Your Charizard's dealing a 210 with that Burning Darkness, but with the Defiance Band can actually pull off the KO, and from there, I think it would just be game over. It's a lot to work towards, though, and with Brent grabbing the Charmeleon, might opt for a little bit of slower setup here.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think we need to go all the way if it doesn't really call for it. Granted, it is very, very tempting, especially because there's only 1 Archeops in the discard, but that Legacy energy means that you're only getting 1 prize for it. So then you're offsetting yourself in the prize trade. But we'll see what is going on in the hands. I see a Professor Research and double Archeops. You love when your opponent just gives you everything that you need to have a great next turn. But still over on Brent's side, I think this could just be another instant charge angle. Jeremy, what do you think?
Yeah, there was at least a Charizard EX in hand. There's Buddy Poffin, but it's definitely going to be interesting to see. I don't think there was a rare candy, so we're going to have to wait on a turn for that. Usually you have something like an Arvin to be able to piece together rare candy, Pidgeot EX, to search for a rare candy for Charizard EX. And I think here Brent is saying, I'm going to wait 1 more turn, but I need at least a Pidgey in play.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like the way that we're kind of just assuring on the bench, right? If our Pidgey gets knocked out, we have another one. We have Charmeleon and Charmander and a Duskull. Like, I think this is definitely a little bit of a slower game, but with that, we've assured a lot more just kind of safety going into what will be a couple more turns here. But it is just going to be that instant charge. It will end the turn, but we get to draw 3, so not a bad turn here for Brent.
Now this is hopefully going to be a much better turn for Ciaran here. It's going to have to discard a lot of resources with that Professor's Research, but bringing that Lugia V-Star to the active spot with the Jet energy already has the Legacy energy on it. That means a simple Primal Turbo is able to search out and charge up that Lugia V-Star to start taking some knockouts, and there is the real lifeline of the deck in Archeops.
Yeah, absolutely. Archeops just having an amazing ability where you can just go on ahead and just attach to your any Pokemon on the bench with that special energy. Lugia V-Star as a deck really does run on all of the special energy that we have. For example, Double Turbo, Jet Energy as well. I know there's one V-Guard energy in this deck alongside a Mist energy too. But with the additions of Minccino and Cinccino, this deck, I think, just went up a couple spots on that tier list.
And we saw the first Primal Turbo attach that double turbo to that Lugia V-Star. And we're going to have the second one charge up that Minccino on the bench. So now both of them are going to be kind of threatening Cinccino on the following turn if Brent starts to go that Charizard EX route. And we'll have to see if it's going to be enough. Remember, there's one prize, and it is one of the best cards in this matchup.
Gonna grab the Ultra Ball off the prizes here as we're gonna head back on over into Brent's turn here. Definitely has a lot of options and a lot of ways to go, but I think the most obvious thing that we could be seeing this turn is going to be the Rare Candy Charizard EX with the Infernal Rain ability where you are able to accelerate 3 fire energy straight out of the deck and onto your Pokemon. A lot of the times if you just have that Charmeleon set up, you can go just straight on to a Charizard EX and a Charmeleon there. I know some players have gone for Pidgeot EX's ability, Blistery Wind, where you get to discard a stadium at time, but you have the choice to do up to 3. It looks like Brent just wants to do these 2.
Yeah, you only have 2 more left in the deck, so it really is just about conserving your resources as much as possible. You got 1 in hand as well, so if you want, you can attach it to the Charmeleon and still kind of threaten an attack, just in case something really goes wrong.
And thinking about our options here, I do believe I saw a supporter, but it seems like we are just going to go on ahead and take care of what I think to be is the biggest threat that I think Lugia V-Star has, and we were talking about it. The Minccino and the Cinccino, they can hit for massive amounts of damage, and those being single prizes hurts even more. But one thing that I do want to ask you about, Jeremy, is the fact that we're still holding on to our Dusclops here. What do you think we're saving it for?
Maybe a Dusknoir. The Dusknoir is prized, so Brent kind of valuing that quick 130 to be able to spread a little bit more damage, maybe even just having the option. But it also gives your opponent an extra card, right? Ciaran already took 1 prize, so it's going to have to map out things a little bit more awkwardly. And here we do have the Cinccino coming down, so Ciaran's going for that big 1-hit knockout on a Charizard EX, and just hoping Brent cannot really recover from it.
Yeah, I think it's a good play at this point, right? It's all about what am I valuing here in knocking out? Do I want to take away the energy acceleration in the Archeops, but then you leave the possibility of just having Cinccino still out and available. Like we said, this is kind of the hardest part about now playing against Lugia V-Star, but I like the Iono here coming out from Ciaran. So Brent, who now loses the fire energy in the hand, we'll see what's going to go down thanks to Iono. Shuffle the cards into the deck, and then you just draw your remaining prizes. So for both of our players, it is just going to be 5 cards each, but things are looking real good right now.
Yeah, the biggest thing that Iono did was actually put the energy that was in Ciaran's hand to the bottom of the deck so you can actually attach it with Primal Turbo. Remember, Primal Turbo only attaches special energies from the deck to one of your Pokemon. So having to use that Iono there is kind of good both ways, right? Your opponent just took a prize card, maybe their hand was a little too good, but now we have the special roll for the knockout, being able to take down that 330 HP Charizard EX. And this is Ciaran's big turn to try to take this game over.
Yeah. See what we are going to hit going into Brent's turn, though. We do see the A-Spec Heroes Cape coming down now, so something that can help in the matchup. But let's go on ahead and find our Arven first. So did have Ultra Ball in the hand, but it looks like we are going to be seeing that Defiance Band come into play. And now that Brent is down prizes, that is going to activate. We're going to be doing a little bit more damage there, but Could be seeing a rare candy Pidgeot and then using that quick search to find Charizard EX. And then we're going to be a little bit more set up because, believe it or not, Jeremy, we're out of Chinchinos after this one.
Yeah, and even there's a possibility to use Dusknoir to maybe even take the KO on the Chinchino and then follow up with a big KO with Charizard EX in combination with something like a counter catcher. It really just depends what's in Brent's hand and if he has it all or not. But there is the quick search for the Charizard EX, so we're at least going to get a big attack off.
Yeah. Right? Still figuring out deck searching. It's such a shame, too, because we were talking about that Dusclops, right? And then Brent had pulled the Dusknoir off of the prizes, and then it just got shuffled back into the deck. So we're not going to be able to see Chris Blast go all the way. But we do get to see the Charizard EX come out. We do get to see the knockout on Chinchino, and it's up to Ciaran to kind of recover from this one because having Pidgeot set up is a huge, huge part of what this deck does well.
Does seem like it's just a Burning Darkness here, so no more special role for Ciaran here. And Charizard EX is trying to mount a comeback. 4 prizes to 3, and looking like at least control of the board now for Brent.
It feels like there's just no more threats other than the Lugia V-Star. And I think the whole point of swinging with Chinchino is to try, and it comes back to our first turn of just drawing the legacy energy and saying, well, you know what, I now have this in my hand. I have to feel like I use it. A lot of the times, a lot of players will put it on the Chinchino just so when you knock out Chinchino, it doesn't count for any prizes. And that's the beauty of legacy energy here. But the problem is you lose your single prizers. Now it's on Lugia. It's not a bad place for it to be. It's just not ideal. It's not where you actually want it to be.
Yeah, the only attackers left really are just Weird Ear V and this Lugia V-Star. Maybe Archeops can get in there, but it's never really what you want to do here.
No, definitely not Speed Wing for 120, if you will. Not exactly my favorite. So we'll see what Ciaran is going to do here. We are going to see Mesa Gosa come down as the Ultra Ball 2, going to discard that Iron Hands EX and another Archeops. I think at this point we could just go for the setup games, but I mean, Jeremy, Blood Moon Ursaluna is still in the deck. It could be a good card that we're looking for here.
Yeah, some of the good cards we're looking for here is actually Boss's Orders, which Ciaran just has not found. There's still 2 in the deck, 2 in the prize cards. But maybe this can get Lumineon V heads off the Mesagoza. Or just Lugia V-Star thin things out as well. We're running out of energy, by the way. I think there's a double turbo and like a jet or miss energy left.
And that's crazy to think about, too, because of how many energy Ciaran plays in this deck. It's going to be 17. And to think that we're almost already out, you got to think about how much energy Chinchino needs to actually knock out a Charizard. 330 hit points is a lot to take down. But as you were talking about Weird Deer, with that Frontier Road ability, you're able to just take all of the energy off the board as soon as Weird Deer goes into the active and use that Psy Shield Bash, which does 40 times each energy attached to this Pokemon. It does do a lot of damage. It's kind of the ace.
Yeah, it's in here for getting those big knockouts, especially when you don't have access to Chinchino. But just a quick Tempest Dive here, 200 damage, and not going to be enough to take out this Charizard EX just yet, but at least has the follow-up with something like a Blood Moon or Ursaluna.
Looking on over into Brent's side here, we're going to do a quick discard check. I think what makes a really great player is how they are aware of their resources at any moment, so they don't make any misplays. Let's see what exactly. See, we're going in for quick search here. Now, we do have Counter Catcher online because Brent has more prize cards left than Ciaran. Could be seeing a Counter Catcher play onto maybe, God, it could be the Squawkabilly EX just to get a quick 2-prizer and then send it down, but could be practically anything. That's the beauty of quick search, if you will.
Yeah, I think the main target here is you're going to want to get the energy off the board. Lugia V-Star could be a simple knockout with something like that Defiance Band, because I believe Charizard EX is doing, what, 270 right now? Granted, you only get the 1 prize card from that Legacy energy.
Yeah, and that's kind of the weird part. We talk about prize mapping, right? And how I think in this format in particular, I think players love to go for that 2-2-2, but it will just be the counter catcher onto the Squawkabilly, and now Charizard is going to be the one wearing that fancy schmancy Hero's Cape, getting 100 HP. So now Zard is now going to be sitting at 430 hit points total, but definitely messes up Ciaran's prize mapping just a little bit now.
Yeah, I mean, that's a way to get out of range of Lugia V-Star dealing 200 damage. Hero's Cape boosting up 100 HP. That means this Charizard EX is going to have 30 HP remaining and might force the Weird Ear V out of Ciaran, which if that happens, Brent is set up pretty well to take the last two prizes after KOing the Squawkabilly. So Hero's Cape throwing a huge wrench into things.
Yeah. Charmander, though, will be coming down as well. I do like how Brent is essentially just a securing, but see what's going to happen here. We're thinking about Weirder. We have Ultra Ball. We also do have the Blood Moon Ursaluna, but Brent has definitely lined up for what I like to call checkmate next turn.
Ciaran now finally has boss's orders available to be able to do things with, but now I'm not really sure what you can do. We're actually going to see the Weird Ear get discarded here.
I think at this point, Jeremy, it's just that Ciaran has to play a one-prize game, kind of disguised as a two-prizer, if you will, with Lugia V-Star only technically counting for one prize right now. Don't have that much of a deck left to work with here. I mean, we were talking about a little bit earlier boss's orders, but are going to be going on ahead and grabbing our second Luminion here. But I mean, there's only two supporters left in deck. We've been really, in both of our stream sets that we've seen so far, just going all the way down to like last two cards in deck.
So I think the way this game's going to try to play out, Ciaran's going to boss's orders, one of the two prizers on Brent's bench. It's going to either be the Rotom or the Luminion. You take your prizes that way, and then you just leave the board the way it is. The Lugia V-Star, the two Archeops. Brent is not going to be able to finish the game off next turn. You have access to Jet Energy plus Blood Moon Ursaluna EX for next turn in combination with another boss's orders. So that is going to be the route for victory for Ciaran here. Meanwhile, Brent can disrupt that by getting that one of Professor Turo's scenario to pick up something like that Rotom or the Charizard. But yeah, I think so it needs to be Turo and Collapse Stadium to really seal things from that Blood Moon Ursaluna.
And Brent has tons of more cards in the deck than Ciaran here. Could be anything, but there's that quick search. Could just go for the Professor Turos, like we said, going just to mess up the prize mapping just a little bit. But it is going to be the rare candy and going on to the other Charmander on the bench to find that Charizard EX, finding Infernal Rain, and now we can go on ahead and actually just swing for knockout here because Ciaran has taken so many prizes.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if Brent can find the win con that Ciaran is trying to set up here. But having to search for that rare candy means you needed that Charizard and going to bench a Pheasantipity. Okay, I mean, no, it doesn't really. I think it might be checkmate here.
So close. There it is. The Ultra Ball going to go into deck here. Grab what we need to, and there's the Dusknoir Curse Blast once again, but you give your opponent the prize card. Yeah, you can't use that. It's like, okay, well, we found our Dusknoir maybe a couple turns late. I just looked up the prize cards, and I was like, wait, great, I think we found Dusknoir. We just really have not seen all day today people utilize the line all the way to the end. It always just feels one or two turns too late. But you know what doesn't feel too late? It will just be the Burning Darkness. But thanks to Legacy Energy, that Lugia V-Star, instead of two prize cards, only counts for one.
Okay, and now the way it's shaped up, Iono put Ciaran down to 2 cards this turn, but needs 3, essentially, to kind of take this game with the boss's orders and the Blood Moon Ursaluna with an energy. I don't think Ciaran actually drew it here. There's the boss's orders, but not going to do it. And I think Brent was able to squeak this one out.
So close here. See what the draw is. But
Yep.
Professor Turo's scenario going to come through for Brent, winning that game number 1. So close. I don't think Ciaran had basically any cards left in deck, but it always just comes down to that clutch Iono. Just throw everything to the bottom of the deck and make you fish again. But what a really great set that we have going on, Jeremy.
Yeah, a very back and forth game there, and both players kind of stumbling there in the beginning, but just the way that both players had essentially the game closed out, but Brent digging for that Charizard, that Iono to really make Ciaran just have it on the following turn. But when you have to use your supporter for the turn for a boss's orders, you're not going to be able to use that Professor's Research to draw into your entire deck to find that Blood Moon Ursaluna.
Really good mapping here. Goes to show once again how close this game was. We're even going to throw it to a replay while we even shuffle up just to see how this game went along. Honestly, I do have to say, Jeremy, this game was awkward from the start just because of the legacy energy on Lugia.
Yeah, it really kind of just limited the outs that Ciaran had throughout the game. You can't really bench a Lumineon and then put it back into the deck with its Aqua Return. You can't use Iron Hands at all to kind of steal an extra prize. It did force Brent to kind of play around the one prize Lugia V-Star, but Charizard EX is pretty good at just not caring and taking knockouts as long as it sticks around. And thanks to that Hero's Cape, it stuck around.
Already back down to the table here as Brent is going to go first. Or was that just the pass thanks to Iron Hands? Usually Lugia likes to go first, but regardless, it is going to be the Buddy Puffin. Now we're seeing Cleffa come out to play here. I really want to take a look at these prizes, Jeremy, because having your Forest Sealstone prize, you never want to see it all the way up at the top of the prizes.
Yeah, along with that one of Collapse Stadium, we didn't see it come in handy last game, but it is one of those ways to get rid of those extra two prize Pokemon that you don't really want on the bench after the first couple turns. Counter Catcher there as well. There's 2 copies, so not going to be too bad. And yeah, Lugia likes to always go first, but maybe chose to go second just because Charizard's very good at going second.
Could be true. And shuffling up here. Definitely don't see a Charmander down just yet here. Maybe it's in hand at this point. There it is. I was about to say, Buddy Puffin for no Charmander was definitely throwing me off a little bit. But let's head on over into Ciaran's side here, that Capturing Aroma. Once again, you get heads, you get to grab a evolution Pokemon, you get tails, you get to grab a basic. So we don't see the Lugia just yet, but we can always assume in turn 1 or turn 2, if we're flipping heads, we're just going to go on ahead and get our win condition into the deck, and that's going to be that Archeops.
Yeah, I just noticed Ciaran's shirt there, kind of looking like a missing though.
The drip, if you will.
Yeah, Capturing Aroma is one of those cards that Lugia V-Star is kind of forced to play. You'd much rather it just be a simple guaranteed search for your evolution or basic, but you have to work with what you get. I don't know if you really want to play Great Ball too much, so it's one of those cards where you just have to hope those flips are on your side. And there is triple Archeops Professor's Research here after attaching that double Turbo Energy to the Iron Hands. Lugia V-Star, or Lugia V on the bench, ready to evolve into the V-Star next turn and get things going.
This is a great turn coming out from Ciaran. We have tons of opportunities next turn also to get things going. We also see Jacques, where we're able to grab 2 evolution Pokemon out of the deck. We had another Capturing Aroma. I believe there's also an Ultra Ball in hand too. This hand is great for Ciaran. Like we said, I mean, you can't ask for anything more than 2 Archeops in your discard pile your first turn.
Now we see Pidgeot EX in the hand for Brent, has an Ultra Ball available. Not sure if there was an actual supporter. Well, I guess Lumineon V can solve that for us.
Yeah, Luminous Sign, also another one of those abilities that is a fantastic way to kind of get yourself back into the game just through a Pokemon. But the thing is, it does become a bench liability just like Squawkabilly does, but Definitely playing Professor Turo's scenario helps you offset that. So we are going to go on ahead and grab the Arvin. We're already grabbing Hero's Cape Rare Candy here. So I want to see exactly what Brent is thinking in the hand, because honestly, that's very interesting that we're already going for the Hero's Cape. But like we said, we got a lot of evolves right now. There's Pidgeot EX coming down, where we're able to use that quick search ability. Like we said, one of the best abilities in the game. You're able to really just go on ahead and grab whatever you want from this deck.
Hear me out.
Yeah.
If Brent's planning on using this grasping draw for this turn,
Yeah.
do you Hero's Cape the Cleffa to get it out of range of Ampy very much?
The strongest Cleffa I have ever seen. And you know what, Jeremy? Why not? If you, honestly, anything else at this point, you definitely don't want to kind of like throw to the wind. But the problem is you also now played Luminion too. That Iron Hands is already there. It could just be Ciaran finding his own Luminion for boss's orders. And then oh, there it is. It's not going on the Clef, it's going on the Luminion. You know what? I like Brent's kind of safeguard play, right? Why lose 3 prizes when you could only just lose 2 at this point?
I guess.
That's what we like to call risk management, Jeremy.
Especially when your opponent's playing 4 boss's orders. Most likely going to have that supporter be played on that Luminion anyway. So I believe that was, Tails. So no Lugia V-Star just yet for Ciaran. Might be forced to play that Jock.
I love that card too. It really kind of took over for Professor Burnett in its own different way, because Burnett just discarded the Archeops into the discard for you, but now Jacques is like, it can go into your hand and then you can discard it, but it essentially does the same thing here. But I think something that I wanted to point out is, yes, we can Legacy energy our Iron Hands here, but then we throw ourselves back into kind of the conundrum of when does Cinccino get its like time to have Legacy energy. And so far, we just haven't really seen it have its time here, but there is Ultra Ball, and we do see, of course, the Summoning Star that grabs Archeops out of our discard, just throws it onto the bench here. But we could be seeing the Legacy energy going on to Iron Hands for an Ampy very much.
Yeah, I think when you start it, you kind of are forced into it, but anytime you're able to grab 2 prizes against a deck like Charizard, you're really just kind of have to do that. You want to keep up in the prize trade as much as possible. Granted, it does mean that Charizard's going to be able to come back and take a knockout on the Iron Hands EX, but thanks to the Legacy energy, it's only 1 prize.
And that's why this deck, for a lot of people, they struggle with, because the prize trade then kind of goes awry here. But I like what Ciaran is doing by throwing gift energy onto the Minccino, just in case it does get knocked out. We get to draw up to 7 cards. As long as we have enough for a draw, we can just draw cards off of a knockout. Really like this just safeguarding here, but still, we're going to thin this deck all the way down, considering the Ultra Ball here. But still, going to be able to use the Jacques finally, grab a Lugia V-Star and that Cinccino for next turn.
Pretty good here. You can even thin out the deck a little bit more, discarding that Lugia V-Star. Does have to get rid of a Jet Energy, though, which, again, Lugia does play a lot of energies, 17, but each and every one is so precious. To really close out the game, you have to manage your resources perfectly.
And there's 0 way to get energy, to get special energy, I should say, back into the deck too. I think we have Super Rod and Superior Energy Retrieval for our basic energy, but special energy, once it's gone, I mean, it's pretty much gone. So speaking of gone, it is going to be an Imp very much coming out from Ciaran's Iron Hands EX here. And we are going to be able to take these 2 prizes. We get a double turbo energy out of the prizes and another Lugia V, but here we go. It's going to be that Dusknoir coming down to play here, that Cursed Blast. I think Brent's going to launch it.
Yeah, maybe this Minccino going to the discard, those 2 energies along with it, but you just want to limit the resources as much as possible so your Charizard EX can survive.
Quick search here for Pidgeot, and whenever you quick search with Pidgeot, it's usually just for the missing Charizard piece that you just don't have in hand. But as you can tell, it is going to be that rare candy Charizard EX using that Infernal Rain ability, where you are able to grab 2 fire energy straight out of the deck and attach them. Still, I mean, it's a great, great ability. And honestly, Big Bad Charizard last year was really dominating the meta for a little bit. happy to see it kind of now met with some very formidable opponents.
Yeah, you're saying that, but it's still dominating the meta
It's
here.
true.
Brent is 6-0 to start things off in Baltimore for this season, and it's looking like a pretty good hand, even facing down the double Archeops Summoning Star turn 2, Iron Hands, take an extra prize card.
I'm interested to see what the supporter line is going to be. It's the counter catcher. I would love to see the counter catcher onto the Minccino here. So we're just taking out threats left and right here. And I think a lot of the times players say, oh, well, I could go for a 2-prize knockout instead of just a 1-prize. But the real threat for Charizard in this deck are the Mincinos and the Chinchinos here. So I'm really liking Brent's line here, plus the Iono to just add the cherry on top of a turn full of pain.
Yeah, and you actually saw Ciaran kind of pause for a moment and take a look at his hand just to see what cards are going to go to the bottom of the deck and what resources you kind of have available. There is that knockout, and getting rid of both Mincinos in play in one turn, that's what you want to see when you're Charizard EX.
Absolutely. Great stuff coming out from Ciaran, but Ciaran already has a plan. Already going to that Primal Turbo here. See how we can go on ahead and power up Lugia V-Star that we still have. There are still routes that we have, Jeremy, but the routes are just a little bit different now. We have to go for more of this traditional play. I think it's also important to note out now that Hero's Cape is on that Lumineon, Amp You Very Much for 3 prizes doesn't work. Amp You Very Much with a double turbo energy attached to Iron Hands also doesn't knock out Pidgeot either. So we'll see what Ciaran has up the sleeves here. Has a boss's orders. Do we just go for an Amp You Very Much on a Charmander?
Yeah, maybe, honestly. Do that, and then you can hopefully clean up one of these Pokemon with a combination of Lugia V-Star and Weird Ear or Blood Moon or Saluna. We do see boss's orders in hand, but it's also along with that Professor's Research, but boss's orders is the option, Charmander, to the active.
I really like this play too because you can see how Ciaran is kind of safeguarding the board at this point because we are setting up for that Weird Deer play, right? We were talking about this. Frontier Road, once during your turn, when Weird Deer moves into the active, Weird Deer gets to take all of that energy with Weird Deer. And if we have tons of energy out on the board already, hitting Charizard, a full HP Charizard for 330 hit points is not a tough task. So Iron Hand's doing a lot of the work in this matchup. It's been an excellent game so far.
Yeah, Weird Ear loading up the sleigh when it goes to the active spot, dealing out a lot of presence of pain.
It's very true. So though, checking out the discard here. Honestly, if you're Brent, what is the line that you go for here? Because Amp You Very Much is not too dangerous, right? So we could leave the Iron Hands. Do we take one of the Archeops with Counter Catcher so it doesn't hurt that bad? Or what would you do in this situation?
It's a little bit awkward. Maybe even Lugia V-Star could be the option, but again, you're leaving so much energy in play. But any of those 3 Pokemon that you knock out in the 2 Archeops and the Iron Hands EX all have gift energy on it. So if you knock it out by damage, Ciaran's going to draw until he has 7 cards in hand, so Iono's not really an option this turn unless you do take a knockout on that Lugia V-Star. Does have access to a counter catcher still in the deck, and grabbing the Charmander here means I think we're going to see, I don't know, it's a liability on the bench, but there is the Iono.
Yeah, so going to shuffle all of those cards to the bottom of the deck, and Ciaran is just going to draw 1 big card. Brent is going to draw 4 and see what we got. There's the counter catcher in hand. No quick draw required for that one.
We still see the quick search here for potentially something. Looks like the Turo maybe for next turn. But drawing the counter catcher, we're going to see that Lugia V-Star get knocked out, leave just those 3 Pokemon in play, 2 cards in hand after the turn, draw for turn. This will be essentially the next few turns of the game.
I like the grabbing of the Professor Turos as well. Still though, counter catcher, like we said, on to Lugia V-Star here. So it is just going to be the retreat and the knockout with that Burning Darkness.
We have a capturing aroma here. If it's a Tails, that is just game over. Oh, it was a heads.
So close.
We do have a Professor's Research in hand, though, for Ciaran. So pretty easy draw there off the Iona to 1, being able to draw 7 new cards and hopefully get it. We're going to see the Primal Turbos here just extend more energy in play. That way you don't draw into them. And all of this energy is really relying on this Weird Year from these 7 cards.
This is definitely the most interesting way I've seen thinning, quite possibly ever. But as they say, thinning is winning. And as long as we're able to thin our deck enough, we can just find that Weird Year. I do believe a lot of our ball search is also down too. I do believe Ultra Ball is down. So we really kind of have to hit, Blood Moon or Weird Year, excuse me, just straight through Professor's Research. This could be it right here, Jeremy.
Big 7 cards, Ultra Ball. You just have the Weird Year V anyway, and we're going to a game 3, Emily.
Yeah, super exciting game. Really great stuff from both players, but we love to see Ciaran come back. We are going to be seeing a game number 3. Like we said, as long as you thin all the way down and you're very careful with your resources, Ciaran not only did draw the Weird Year V, but he also drew the Ultra Ball anyway to grab it. So really good stuff, great resource management. But Brent definitely had the right idea with the Hero's Cape onto Luminion because Iron Hands was doing a lot of work that match.
Yeah, it was using Ampy very effectively, being able to really kind of steal the game where normally you wouldn't kind of get there with the prize mapping. Now, just under 10 minutes left to go. Let's take a look at game 2 yet again. That Ampy taking out that Cleffa. And that was the start of the craziness that went on in this game. Now you have Cursed Blast getting rid of that Minccino along with a counter catcher to get rid of the other one. And then Boss's Orders. 2 more prizes for Ciaran here off that Charmander. And of course, doing as much as you can, Brent could not avoid the Weird Year V off of that Professor's Research on the Iona to 1. And we have a pretty exciting game 3 here. Maybe just enough time to actually finish it.
I was about to say, I mean, like we were talking about a little bit earlier, 50 minutes goes by a lot faster than you think, especially when you're thinking so much here. But I'm looking at Ciaran's hand right now, not my favorite. We'll see what Brent has ready to go here, but we did see a mulligan, so Brent will be able to draw an extra card here. That's kind of crucial, giving your Charizard opponent in game number 3 another card, and they already have Buddy Poffin in hand too.
All right, we got a game 3 here for y'all, and it is gonna be a doozy. Now, looking at the prize cards for these players, gonna be a little bit rough. Ciaran did prize 4 energy.
Still has 13 in deck, but still in a in a deck that requires usage of a lot of energy to take down Charizard EX. Not exactly what you want to see here. I think it's really important to note out that I believe one of the counter catchers is prized, but also the Defiance Band that we were talking about that has played a crucial part in the math has also been prized. I mean, Defiance Band, a great tool. It does 30 more damage if you're behind on prizes. That's not bad at all, especially in a matchup like this.
Yeah, thankfully, Brent hasn't really found a good use for it, has had other stuff, you know, just by Ciaran taking more prize cards, deal more damage with that Burning Darkness from Charizard. Does look like the Squawk and Seize discards the hero of last game, Weird Year V. We're not going to see that play going forward. But you got to do what you got to do to get those Archeops in the discard, get a Lugia V-Star for next turn, and Brent starting off nice with that Buddy Poffin.
I would love to talk about Brent's turn, but I also just have to note Ciaran's amazing hand. Has Lugia V-Star and 2 Ultra Balls as well for next turn. But, I mean, Brent bringing his own heat with 2 Buddy Poffins. You love to see it that way. Oh, and going to be able to go on in and grab Cleffa and Duskull here too. So it looks like both of our players are going to get rather set up super, super quickly. Looking in the hand, I see a Charmeleon. I see a rare candy. There's a lot that we can work with here for Brent. It's just a matter of, do we have time to put it all together?
Does seem like both players are aware of the time remaining, and their pace of play has increased a little bit. We do see the energy to retreat the Charmander and a grasping draw here. Always good from Brent. Didn't actually use a supporter in hand. Had the Iono, but maybe hoping Ciaran goes for something like an Ampu very much to take a couple prize cards. Maybe you can stick Ciaran with a little bit less cards in hand.
Well, if you're Ciaran, you'd love to see a turn like this, right? Lugia V-Star, Archeop's ready to go, but like you said, Jeremy, here comes Iron Hands. And I think we're going to be seeing the same exact play that we saw last time, where Iron Hands is just going to be going full force here. The boss's orders here onto the Pidgey. I actually super agree with this. We have to understand that Charizard EX is going to come no matter what, but the thing is, you get rid of Quick Search, and Quick Search, like we've been talking about, is a key part of this. So, are going to be moving Cleffa back up into the active, and like you said, Jeremy, the pace of play has 100% changed.
Yeah, who needs quick search when you're just quick playing?
Very true. Speed Pokemon, if you will.
Just need a chess clock and then we're good.
Goodness. I see that argument almost every day. Just play with the knowing me, I'm gonna forget about it at that point. Still though, back on over to Brent's side. We have a couple ways that we want to go about this. I definitely see Rare Candy Zard. We have it thanks to Ultra Ball, but what else could we do at this point? I mean, you have Legacy Energy on Iron Hand, so it won't go to the Chinchino, but we have 2 Archeops and a Minchino ready to go. So honestly, I'm liking Ciaran's odds right now.
Yeah, I mean, when there's 5 minutes left in the game and
True.
you already took 2 prizes, I like those odds no matter what. But Pheasantipity EX is going to be able to flip the script, draw a few more cards for Brent to try to find what he needs to couple together a big turn. But Rare Candy Charizard is where you kind of need to start.
Definitely always just a good thing to kind of achieve, especially when we're like down below. But the problem is we're offsetting our prize race, like we talked about. Legacy Energy only going to be counting for 1 prize card here, and then we can just safely assume Chinchino just going to come in and smack for all that energy. And even though 4 energy were in the prizes, we got some of it out already too, so we can actually use some of it. But do have Counter Catcher in hand, so we can figure out a way that we can, potentially just take out the Chinchino. But the problem is, Jeremy, Iron Hands is still here.
It is for sure. Ultra Ball could find something like Dusknoir or even just, Lumineon V to find a supporter for the turn or for next turn. Yeah, it looks like Arven here, Rare Candy. We could see the Dusknoir still. Wow, yeah.
Yeah. And
going fast.
Yeah, we got to go fast at this point, right? But it is going to be that Dusknoir, like you mentioned, Cursed Blast. Going to throw some damage counters on the other side, and I think that's what we're willing to do at this point, right? We're willing to just give up a prize card just so we can mitigate one of the threats here on the bench.
Yeah, I think for the turn, we're going to see this Dusknoir take out the Minchino on the bench, the Charizard take out the active Iron Hands, and leave Ciaran with basically just Tempest Dive as the sole attack to really deal good chunks of damage because that Weird Ear V is in the discard.
Still though, Brent going to be taking just 2 prizes there. Going back on over into Ciaran's side here, draws the Blood Moon Ursaluna. I don't know if we're going to be able to use too much of it, but the problem is, Jeremy, when you pull your special energy off the prizes, they're in your hand. Archeops does not accelerate special energy from the hand here, so we'll see what exactly Ciaran's thinking. Another Minchino potentially, which I like the odds of that because there is no more Dusknoir to get it out of there. But this Lugia is going to have to start swinging this turn, otherwise we're in danger.
Capturing Aroma does get Tails, so maybe something like Blood Moon Ursaluna, Lumineon V for boss's orders could be the option. Again, it might just be a boss play here to try to finish things off. Just avoid this Charizard EX at all cost. And it seems like, just a lot of shortcutting, but Lumineon V gets searched with that Capturing Aroma, played to the bench, got the boss's orders. Then you Primal Turbo for the energy on the Lugia in the active spot, and we're going to see a big knockout.
A big knockout indeed here. The thing is, though, if we boss that Lumineon, that is all fine and good. That's a flip the script if I've ever seen it. So let's see what is going to happen here. The gift energy onto Lumineon, I like that as well. So we're still going on ahead and safeguarding our board here. Ciaran is setting up for an amazing checkmate next turn, potentially.
Instead, swapping to that Minchino on the bench, maybe still just, if I can knock out the active Charizard EX, I'm going to win anyway, so might as well. Energy from the hand. Boss's orders, that Lumineon V. And Ciaran's going to go down to 1 prize card left with 1:30 to go. Brent with 4 needs to take 2 knockouts in a row to be able to close things out.
And if we even go to time here, it just feels like Ciaran just has an answer for next turn. I think at this point, Jeremy, we just need to Iono and just hope that nothing, works out here, but that's so hard to say. There's the counter catcher. So we're throwing it onto Luminion here. We're going for the 2-2-2 prize race at this point here. So manual attach onto the Charmeleon and the Iono here. So we're going to be sending Ciaran down to 1 singular card. Brent going to have 4 to work with, but the moment that this game hits time, and it will be hitting time in about 45 seconds, everything's about to change.
Now, was that another Professor's Research off this 1 card? I think it was, and that's just insane for Ciaran. Brent is doing everything he can to try to just kind of seal up this game, but when your opponent draws out of that hand disruption, you really can't do anything about it.
Those are the times where you see the memes on social media where it's when my opponent Ionos me to 1 and like they're sitting there with the straight face here, but getting close here to time and the end of the game. We'll see what's going to happen. Ultra Ball to probably grab another Charizard at this point. I mean, there's so much on the line here. Like we said, this is technically the win and I know both of these players do not want to feel the pressure of going on more into rounds where their runs can potentially end, but it just feels like Ciaran has so many answers just on the board right now.
Yeah, it's going to be coming down to these last couple turns. Time's already called, but it doesn't matter. The game's either ending on Ciaran's next turn or Brent's next turn.
Let's see what is going to happen here. It just feels like this game just went so fast compared to our other 2 games. Both of our competitors just so diligent in a lot of their text searches, but we'll see what is going to happen here. Just going to go on ahead, bench the Pidgey, move Cleffa out of the active Burning Darkness. Let's see what's going to happen. Like we said, it is just a Professor's Research, a Lugia V-Star draw. So, listen, you can't ask for a better card right now. Primal Turbo on to Minccino, and we're just going to hope that we see Cinccino after this Professor's Research. It really does come all down to this, Jeremy.
Yeah, the Cinccino does 70 per energy card attached to it, so 5 is the number you're hoping to get. Ciaran's going to have 6 on there, so more than enough to be able to take the knockout with special roll.
Could you imagine if we're unable to draw the Cinccino and then it comes down to Mesagosa to do it, or capturing a roll?
Don't put that evil on me.
I'm sorry. I have to just kind of call out our lines here. There's tons here, but it is just going to come down to the cut here onto the Professor's Research. It could go either way. It's either Brent winning this turn, or it's Ciaran winning this, or it's either Ciaran winning this turn, or it's Brent winning this turn. We'll see what this Professor's Research is going to do. It is going to be Brent shuffling the deck. Not a judge cut for this one. Let's go. 7 cards. Do we hit Cinccino? We whiffed.
Oh.
We whiffed?
Yeah, there is some Lugia pieces. There's Nest Ball. There's the Jacques that you can't play. This is heartbreaking for Lugia fans out there watching at home.
What do you even do at this point, right? The Nest Ball, just checking to see what the top deck was here.
This is where the Weird Ear V could have been the hero,
and
but it is in the discard.
Yeah, this is why we said that there's just not much recovery that comes out of Lugia. That's why every single turn counts. But if we're Ciaran, this is a strange situation we're throwing ourselves in. We can't put Blood Moon or Saluna up there, but that's a 2-prizer. And Ciaran has taken 5 prize cards, so that Charizard EX will just eat that one for breakfast.
So Brent does need another counter catcher or boss's orders to be able to win the game on the next turn. He was turn 0, does have the counter catcher, and just like that, Brent Tonisson, 7-0, one of our first players to make it into day 2.
With Charizard EX, nonetheless, with the Hero's Cape too as the chosen ace spec. It all came down to just one Professor's Research and no sign of Cinccino anywhere. Taking a nap in the deck, unfortunate, because I do believe we saw a Mesagosa that we could have flipped for it, or even a Capturing Aroma. We just couldn't find it, but unfortunate for Ciaran. But Brent Tonisson Gonna play masterfully with Charizard Dusknoir. We're finally gonna see a win for it on stream.
Listen, there's a reason he finished -1 in the points last season and is trying to start off this season doing the exact same thing, but hopefully with a regional win. 7-0 with Charizard EX and is looking pretty dominant against the field.
Things are looking great if you're Brent right now. You definitely feel really good. It's good to see the fist bumps all the way around too. Shout outs to our judges also on the table, keeping everything fair in play. But we got to check out the replays because, Jeremy, this one was a heartbreaker.
Oh yeah, great back and forth throughout the entire match. The first game, a little slow out of the gate, but that is because just the prize cards putting in a ton of damage for both players. You have Ciaran getting ahead early with that Cinccino, but Brent trying to claw back with the Charizard EX with that Hero's Cape, forcing Ciaran to really just attack with suboptimal Pokemon and did not have the game on the last turn, and Professor Turo Scenario able to help Brent take that game 1.
It was an amazing display of what both of these decks are able to accomplish. And in what seems like kind of a poor matchup for Charizard, and it feels like Dusknoir starts to fix the math, right? Dusknoir comes down and then you're able to just get rid of the Cinccinos before they even come up and start swinging here. But a masterful display of both of these decks at great power by both of our players. But it will be Brent Tonisson going 7-0, locking into day 2.
Yeah, Iron Hands EX tried to put in a ton of work game 2 and game 3 for Ciaran, but unfortunately not able to really close things out. Brent really playing to the best of his outs. Iono not even sticking Ciaran with a just unusable hand. Professor's research giving him the most outs possible to try to find the KO in that Cinccino. A lot of Pokemon search in the deck, but just unfortunately not able to find it. And the last counter catcher just sealing the victory for Charizard EX.
And honestly, Ciaran did the right thing, right? Just primal turbo all of the energy out at that point. There's no way we don't draw into anything that we need, and we didn't.
That's Lugia for you.
And yes, now all of the Lugia people on social media are going to be like, well, it's a pile. We told you. But honestly, a really great match. I really enjoyed watching it. Like we said, 2 amazing decks piloted by 2 amazing players. You cannot ask for a better showing.
Yeah, well, we are going to have a little chat with Brent Tonisson. So let's take